Hello everybody, how's it going? Cam's here with another bit of guitar for you on a Wednesday morning. So first of all, this is attempt number 2. I'll just come clean and say thank you to Stephen Sparshot, who commented on my previous post that there was no sound. And why was that? Well, I suppose you don't really care, do you? Technical difficulties, let's call it, and let's just leave it at that. So today, I'm going to be looking at the bottom 3 strings on the guitar, which are the E, the A, and the D. So we're looking at, I think, 4 exercises I've got lined up from my Fred Noad book. And it starts out by showing you where they sit on the staff, or actually not on the staff, because none of these notes are actually on the staff. They all fall below the 5 lines of the staff, which makes it a bit challenging to read, especially the low E string, which has 3 extra ledger lines below the staff on the treble clef. So I suppose you just have to get used to how that looks on the page, which I suppose is the same for any of the notes on the page. You have to get used to how they look on the page in order to be able to process them in your brain and understand what they are telling you about where the note sits on the guitar. But it's a bit of a challenge, especially if you're starting out and you're using the mnemonics to learn where the notes are. So every good boy deserves favour was what I was taught by Jim Hutchin at my accordion school. Let me just stop down a little bit. That is looking a little bit hot on the screen. Yeah, it's a bit overexposed. I'm shooting in PP10 on the Sony a7 III for you computer camera geeks that care about such things. So, yeah, I was saying that the way that the notes sit below the ledger line can make it a bit difficult and a bit challenging to get the name of the note in your head. And it's going to get more challenging still when we get on to fretted notes. So it's all about visualization when you're learning to read notation, which I've done, many times over the years, and it never seems to stick. I always have to relearn it every time I pick this book off the shelf. So that's what I'm doing. I'm relearning it. So anyway, let's have a look at the notes. We can't look at the page for copyright reasons. Get yourself the book, go to my link, my affiliate link, and order the book from Amazon, and then we can work through this together. So the first exercise that we're looking at is playing only one of the low strings, which is the D string. And it's notated here that you play it with the thumb. In fact, it says use the thumb on the lower 3 strings and fingers on the upper 3 strings. So that tends to be how I play as well, with finger style. I would use a thumb pick usually on a steel string guitar for that style of music, but classical guitar players would never do that. Well, let's not say never. Generally speaking, classical players would not use a thumb pick. They would use their nails, and classical guitar players. There's a whole section at the beginning of this book that goes into nail care, etc. And I do use my nails. In fact, quite often I will break a nail before a gig, because that's just how law works, right? And it can be challenging, particularly on my ring finger, to get good tone on my steel string guitar without a nail. And in fact, I'm not always picking with the nail. I'm pushing the skin against the nail. But when the nail's not there, there's nothing to push the skin against, and so it can be challenging when you've got a gig and you're used to playing fingerstyle and your nails break. I'm sure any guitar player can relate. So let's look at exercise 8 on page 18, which is in 4/4 time, and we're picking with the thumb on the D string and then using the fingers. Now you'll notice, perhaps, that I tend to anchor my ring finger on the high E string. This is something that I've just picked up over the years, having never really had a teacher, and this is something that a classical player would never do. Well, again, never. Let's never say never, but generally speaking, a classical player would use this kind of position and not anchor at all on the face of the guitar or on the high string. But I'm going to do that because that's just my habit. Just bear that in mind. So here we go. P, I, M, I, M, I. So I'm actually bringing my ring finger in there to play on the high E string. And when we get to the fifth bar, when we've got 4 consecutive E notes, I'm going to pick with middle index, middle index, middle index, middle index. And in that last section, I'm using 1 finger per string. I don't know how well that shows up on this camera. Just index, middle, index, middle, index, middle, ring. So that's exercise 8. Exercise 9, which is again in 4/4 time, and this time it's bringing in all of the new notes, so the 3 lower strings, using the thumb. I'm actually using what's called rest strokes to play this. This is when let's use the A string. And when I pluck the A string, my thumb stops when it gets to the D string, so it's resting on the D. So this is called a rest stroke, and you'll find this a lot in classical music, also in bluegrass. When you're flat picking, the rest stroke is a big feature of that style. And so it's like you're actually pinging the open string, or it'll be the fretted note. Works on fretted notes too. So it's all about volume and dynamics, and learning how to play that style of stroke will give you some headroom when you're playing, give you that dynamics in your toolbox. Let's do that one again. Okay, so that's exercise 9. Let me just turn my... Right, now let's move on to exercise 10, which is in 3/4 time. And we're starting on the G. Remember, Eddie, dynamite, good. So we're on the finger string, top 3 strings. Remember, we're playing with the fingers, bottom 3 strings with the thumb. Right, so G, I'm going to count this one. So 1, 2, 3. the thing to know there is when you go to the D string, it can be quite easy to miss the string because you've been playing up until that point on only the top string. So you'll get the hang of how your guitar feels, the distance between the strings, and your fingers will start to learn exactly where they need to go. And you might find, as I do sometimes when I'm playing a different guitar with different nut width and different string spacing, it can take a bit of time to transition. You know, it happens. You don't have to relearn everything, but it does happen. There will be a transition period. And this is why Pierre Ben-Suzanne, one of my favourite guitar players, let's call him a musician, one of my favourite musicians of all time, he's a great advocate of having only one guitar. Now, come on. Pierre, please. But I know where he's coming from. It's because you get to know your one guitar outside and in perfectly. It becomes part of you, and you can then use that one guitar to express everything in your soul. And you go in the guitar forums and people will say, well, if you want to play authentic blues, you need a 12 fret mahogany top. If you want strum, you need a big mahogany jumbo. If you want to play bluegrass, you need a dreadnought, etc., etc. And that's all part of the fun of playing the guitar is having new instruments to try. That's how I roll. That's why I've got 5. Never enough though. The optimum number, x plus 1, right? Just one more. Right, let's move on to the next page. So we're going on to page 20. We've got another exercise in 3/4 time. And this time we're starting on the A. Let's go back to that position. This is kind of classical position. Well, technically, playing on the left leg. I did notice yesterday I was looking at one of my favourite flat pickers, a guy called Steve Kilby. I met him at Steve Kaufman's Acoustic Camp in 2005. Monster flat picker, incredible picker. He was one of the instructors at camp. The first night there, we were sitting in Carnegie Hall, which was the residence where we were staying at Maryville College in Tennessee. And the first night there, people were arriving and coming in and sitting down in the foyer or the sort of main meeting room in the residence. And I just remember this big guy coming in, sitting down, and made the guitar playing look effortless. He was flat picking like a machine gun. Incredible. So I looked up some YouTube videos of him yesterday, and he plays in that style, which is unusual for a flat picker. Plays in the classical style. Anyway, I digress. Let's take a look at this exercise, number 11. Starting on the A string. Playing a chord and the notes don't really sit well together. Doesn't sound great. And it's just a technique. That's something that I did without thinking as a beginner. You won't do that And that doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. The purpose of these exercises is to learn where the notes are on the guitar and how they look on the page. So that's us for today, folks. Tomorrow we're going to start with 4 arpeggio exercises for daily practice. These are very simple little arpeggio exercises. And then we move on to lesson 4, which in the book is really the second chapter. And it's notes on the fret. So we're going to be playing fretted notes, and it starts to get more interesting quite quickly. So thanks for watching today. Don't forget to go onto the Amazon page if you want to follow along. Get yourself the book. Use my affiliate link because that would throw me a few coppers and be a good way for you to say thanks for putting this content out there. And if you know anybody who's interested in learning with us, let them know. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.